Cumulative frequency curves. Cumulative frequency diagrams are used to obtain an estimate of the median and quartiles from a set of group data. Constructing a cumulative frequency table is our first step before we actually draw a diagram, also known as the Ogive curve. So if we look at this example, we have a PE teacher records the distance jumped by each of 70 pupils. You'll notice in our table we have the distance, which is the first interval between 180 and 190, and the number of pupils 2, which means we have 2 pupils who jumped between 180 and 190. And then it's very important to keep track of your upper limit, and your upper limit in the first range from 180 to 90 is 190. Our cumulative frequency column is blank, and that's the one we want to fill in. And simply put, cumulative frequency just means keeping a running total. So if we were to look at our first value that we want to insert into the cumulative frequency column, and we have 2. So to get our next value, we're going to take 2 plus 6, and that should give us 8. To get our next value, we're going to take 8 plus 9, and 8 plus 9 will give us 17. For our next value, we're going to take 17 plus 7, and that gives us 24. And we carry on with the process. The next value would be 39. Then we're adding 39 to 18. That gives us 57. Then we take 57 to the 8, 65. And lastly, we'll take our 65 plus 5, giving us a grand total of 70. Now, moving on, we want to now plot the curve. So the 3 columns that are involved is the interval, the distance jumped. In the first case, it was 180 to 90. And the number of pupils is 2. And our cumulative frequency is 2. So for us to be able to plot the cumulative frequency curve, or the ogive, we plot the endpoint of each interval. So if we take the first one, the endpoint is 190, second one is 200. And then we plot that against the cumulative frequency column. So our first value, if we look at it, is to plot 192. And there's our value, 192. The second value we're going to plot is 208. And you'll notice 208 is just below the line on 10. There's our second point, 208. Then we're going to plot 210, 17. So we go to 210, and we're going to go to 17, which should be below 20. And we got our next value. The next one we're plotting is 220, 24. So we're going to go to 220, and halfway is 25. So just below that will give us 220, 24. And then we will carry on with this process. So if we look at it, the last point plotted was 260, 70. There's our 260, and there's our 70. And after plotting all those points, we're going to join these dots to form a curve, and then we're going to ground it to 0. And that is what our ogive curve looks like. Quite interesting. So remember, just to refresh, we will plot the upper limit against the cumulative frequency value. Now, if we want to get an estimate of the median, now remember, median is your halfway. So out of 70, we have a cumulative frequency running up to 70, and half of 70 is 35. So we will go to 35, that's our halfway point, and draw a line. And then from that point, we're going to come down, and that gives us a median sitting around, if we look at it, it's just below 230. So that's about 227 estimated, give and take one value on either side. The next thing we'd like to look at is the lower quartile. The lower quartile means 1/4 or 25%. So we will go to 1/4 of 70, or you could say half of the 35 value, and half of 35 would give us about 17.5. So we draw a line, and then on the curve, wherever it meets, we will come down. And if we come down, that'll take us to around 212 to be our lower quartile. Next one, we're going to find the upper quartile, which is our 75% mark. So we can take 75% of 70, or we can go to our calculators and say 70 times 3/4, and that'll give us the value we're looking for. And then if we draw a line, and then we should come straight down, and that will give us a value of around 237. So we have our lower quartile, median, and our upper quartile. If we carry on, we can find an interquartile range by taking the upper quartile minus the lower quartile. And if we do that, we will get the upper quartile minus the lower quartile, which is 237 minus the 212, and that gives you 25 centimeters, which is our interquartile range. Moving on, we'd like to now work with the curve, where the curve is given, and being able to interpret from the given Ogive curve. So in this case, we have a cumulative frequency represented on the y-axis and minutes late on the x-axis. Looking at this question, we have the cumulative frequency curve. It gives information on the aircraft arriving late at an airport. And the question, you use the curve to find estimates to the first one, A, the median. Now, if you look at the curve, it stops at 60. So we have our total. And if we want to find the median, we want to go to the halfway mark, and half of 60 is 30. So at 30, we draw a horizontal line, and then we'll draw a vertical line from the point where it meets the Ogive curve, and we come straight down, and that will take us to a median of 27 minutes late. The next question is to find the interquartile range. Now remember, the interquartile range, we'll have to find our lower quartile and our upper quartile. So the lower quartile is 25%, or 1/4 of 60, which is 15. We'll draw a line, and then we will draw a vertical line coming down from where it touches the graph. And that takes us to a value around, or estimate to be 21. Then we're going to find our upper quartile, which is our 75% mark, or 3/4 of 60. And 3/4 of 60, if we're looking for that, it's 45. We'll draw a horizontal line till we meet the curve, and then we will come straight down. And that will take us to an estimate value of 38, just before 40. So to find our interquartile range, we will subtract both those values. 38 subtract 21, giving us 17 minutes. Moving on to the next question. And the next question says the number of aircrafts arriving less than 45 minutes late. So we go to minutes late, we go to 45. We'll draw a vertical line going up. Wherever we meet on the graph, we will now draw a horizontal line to see where we get on the axis noted by cumulative frequency. And if we do that, we get an estimate around just about 50, and we would say around 52. So the number of aircrafts arriving less than 45 minutes late, we will say 52. Moving on to the next question, it says the number of aircrafts arriving more than 25 minutes late. So we'll go to minutes late, we'll go to 25, we'll draw a line going up to touch the graph, and then we'll draw a line, horizontal line, going towards the left, and that will take us to a value of You'll notice it's above 20. 25 will be half of 20 and 30, so we'll estimate it to be 24. And then we can say that 60 minus 24 is 36. And we have 36 aircraft arriving more than 25 minutes late. So just to explain it again, the number of aircraft arriving more than 25 minutes late, we go to 25, we'll draw a line, we get to 24, but remember our total is 60, so 60 minus 24 gives you 36, and there are 36 aircraft arriving more than 25 minutes late. Thank you. I think you can now practice some past paper questions on the Ogive curves. So we'll take one more question. And this one says, the graph shows the cumulative frequency curve of the marks for students in an examination. Use the graph to find the median mark. So we look at our Ogive that is given, going up to 60 once again. And to find our median, it's half of 60 is 30. We'll draw a line at 30 and we'll come straight down. And that'll take us to a median of around 27. The next question is the number of students who got less than 55 marks. So now we're going to go to our point 55, draw a line going straight up to touch the graph, and then we're going to go towards the left. And that will take us to a value around 58. So the number of students who got less than 55 marks, we would now estimate that to be 58. Okay, the last question here is the pass mark if 3/4 of the students pass the test. Now, if 3/4 of the students pass the test, it implies that 1/4 failed. And 1/4 of 60 is 15. So we're going to go to 15, draw a line, and we come down. And that gives us around 21. So we could say that the pass mark is 21. Thank you. We're going to stop there and you can try this question for yourself.